Ready, set, go. School is in session. Many of you have lots of new faces that you're going to be working with. In my situation, I have approximately 40 preschoolers to start off with. Half of them are brand new to me. I've never met them before. So at this time, I really need to focus my efforts on building relationships. Even for the children that I've known before, I haven't seen them over the summer. And I work with preschoolers. They can be chameleons. They can totally change over the summer. So what I'm doing this first month of school is I'm focusing my efforts on building relationships. Today, I'm going to share with you a 3-step process that I encourage you to do the first month of therapy. Now, if you're already in therapy or if you're a private therapist and you're working year round, don't worry, this applies to you because you're always going to get new faces throughout the year. This is a strategy you can put into place with any new face that comes your way. So don't skip this episode. It's going to be extremely valuable to you as well. The first step is email the parent and ask them this super, super important question. What are your child's favorite toys, activities, songs, characters, TV shows, movies? This is going to be gold. This is what you're going to be doing the first month of therapy. You're going to focus on what the child's interests are to build a relationship. That is step one. Now, if you're in my SIS membership, you are right here by my side. We're doing the intervention together. And I promise you that this Friday in our email that you've received with all the activities in it, I'm going to share with you 2 swipe emails. Now, one email is going to have 10 questions that you're going to want to ask for children that you see for speech therapy. The other email is going to have 10 questions that you're going to want to ask for children that you see in speech and language groups, the groups that are like 2 hours long. So they're a little bit different, but I'm sharing both of those emails that I share with my parents to find out key information before I meet the child. I'm going to be sharing that with SIS members in this Friday's email. So if you're not a SIS member yet, now is the time to join so that you make sure to get those emails and you can copy those emails. You can edit them if you like, and you can share them with your parents. The 10 key questions that you need to ask. I don't like fluff. I don't like asking questions that are not super important for weekly speech therapy or for once weekly groups. So it's not like a 3-page long survey for parents to fill out. It's simply 10 questions. So I will be sharing that with SIS members this Friday at 5:30 a.m. The second step is I want you to feel like I am this bubblegum dispenser. You are this human bubblegum dispenser. And what's inside of this bubblegum dispenser is all of the things that the child loves. So what you found out from that first email with that very important question, what are the child's interests? You're going to fill that dispenser with the child's interests. So you are a human bubblegum dispenser. And over the first month of therapy, you are going to be engaging in the child's favorite activities. What are you going to do during this time? You're going to be doing responsive language and speech strategies. What is that? That is simply where you are doing a lot of modeling. Now, what kind of modeling can you do? I'm going to give you some evidence-based strategies. The first thing you can do is known as mapping, in which you're mapping out the child's experience. So the child is engaging in an activity and you're giving them the play-by-play. You're describing what they're doing using accurate speech, using specific verbs, using a rich, diverse vocabulary. You are the sportscaster and they are the athlete performing the actions on the field. Now, as you do that, you also want to kind of imitate what they're doing, follow their lead. The second responsive strategy that you can use is expansion. When the child makes an utterance, I know many people say add a word or two. I say add a clause. If the child produces a simple sentence, then make that simple sentence into a compound sentence. Make that simple sentence into a complex sentence. Add a prepositional phrase to that. Make it more complex. Really think about making the syntax, the sentence level grammar, more complex. That's where you're going to get the bangs. Model some complex, compound, and expanded sentences for the child. Take what they say and give them back those nice long sentences that are full of pauses. That's what's going to improve the verbal working memory and other aspects of language. Go big. Right? Another thing you could do is recast, in which you take the child's utterances and you change the syntax. Maybe the child's utterance is a sentence and you make it into a question when you repeat it back to them. Now, I want you to think of this 1 month period is this is when you're putting money in the bank. This is when you're investing in the child, and it's going to come back exponentially in your gains later on. Because if the child has a strong relationship with you, so you're going to have a better year of therapy with the child. The child's going to be more comfortable. They're not going to be in the fight, flight, anxiety brain. They're going to be in the higher level brain. They're going to feel safe and secure with you. They're going to be able to engage in higher level thinking, and therefore learning is going to occur more efficiently. Let's make sure they feel safe and secure. And that's what we're doing in this first month when we're front loading the relationship piece. Number three, you want to do is you want to get baseline data. Now, you can get baseline data passively, in which, for instance, I would just open my laptop and get a language or connected speech sample. For language sample, our research has found that for children that are minimally speaking, where their utterances are below an MLU of 3, there's very little variance. So don't feel bad if the child doesn't speak very much and they're speaking in 1 to 2 word utterances and the child has autism. Don't sweat it and waste 4 sessions to get a 50 utterance language sample. We found 25 utterances was sufficient when the child had an MLU of 3 or under. It was right on. The MLU at 25 utterances was almost the same to that of 50, especially for children with autism that were minimally speaking. These numbers were almost exactly the same at 25 utterances and 50 utterances. So if you want to check that research out, I have that research on ResearchGate. If you look up Kelly Vess, it said 50 utterances, can you split the difference? And our research showed that with children who are speaking in short utterances and who are minimally speaking, you really can get a reliable sample at 25 utterances. You also want to get a standard word, single word speech test if the child has a speech sound disorder. Now, the reason that is so important is it's a really easy, fun test to give, and you're going to fade that in later after you've built a strong relationship. It only takes 10-15 minutes. But what is important about this test is that the research indicates at the preschool level, it's very reliable to a spontaneous connected speech sample. The connected speech sample drawback is that many children will avoid using words that are difficult for them to say. So you might do a connected speech sample where they're 100% accurate, but that's because they've avoided sounds that are challenging for them in that connected speech sample. So it's really important to get that single word speech test if you're at the preschool level. The research indicates it is reliable. The errors that show up on that test are the errors that you're going to see in spontaneous speech. And you really want that baseline data so you can compare it to a later time. You want to compare apples to apples. You want to say, okay, this is how they did on this same test 2 months later. If you have a connected speech sample, maybe they didn't say the sounds that were difficult for them. So they have a high percent accuracy in consonants. But then at a later time, they said the sounds that were difficult for them in many different words. So for that, the numbers went up in connected speech samples of errors. That's why you're not comparing apples to apples when you're doing the spontaneous speech sample, because they could be using lots of words that contain their error sounds on the second speech sample, even though they're getting much better with it. You're going to look at the percentage and it's going to look as if the child's regressing or getting worse. So you could also look at language testing and you could slowly fade that in over multiple sessions. I know many insurance companies want that standardized language score. So what you could do is you could do a couple of items and then you could go to their favorite play activities. And then you can fade in a couple of items and then go back to the favorite play activities. Intersperse the play breaks with the testing and just treat it as if you're looking at a storybook. It's just a fun light experience. That is another way that you can introduce the language testing in a non-threatening way and keeping it light so that the child doesn't feel anxious or have performance anxiety and feels safe with you. So those are the 3 steps. Once again, step 1 is find out what the child loves. Step 2, be a human bubblegum dispenser and dispense what the child loves from you and use responsive language strategies. And the third strategy we discussed is baseline testing. I like to use video. That's because video gives me the contextual clues that helps me know what the child is saying, what was the context, what do these gestures mean. I really lose that if I'm just using audio alone. Then, when I do the language sample, I like to analyze it using Descript. That's DESCRIPT, because it takes that language sample and it transcribes it for me. Those are the 3 strategies that I encourage you to do on the first therapy sessions, especially in the beginning of the school year, but year round. You're always going to get new faces, and take the time to invest in the relationship. It's really important advice. It's not take 1 session, it's not take 2 sessions. We're talking about taking an entire month. If you see the child once a week, we're talking about taking 4 sessions to build a relationship. And during that time, get some baseline data. But remember, goal 1 is relationship. Goal 2 is the baseline data. Goal 1 trumps goal 2. And this is going to set the stage for success for this school year. And once again, if you are a SIS member, this Friday, I'm going to share with you my swipe emails that ask 10 questions to children that you're seeing just for speech therapy that you're going to want to know, and 10 questions for children that you're seeing for speech and language groups, because I do both. The speech and language groups that I do run 2 hours. The speech therapy is 30-minute sessions. I want you to have both of those emails to have you covered for your groups and your individual sessions. And you can copy and edit them as you see fit. I want you to take all of this information and I want you to roll up your sleeves and do what you do best. Make the world a better place, one child at a time. You will always be first.